Welcome everyone to our Motzi Shabbos marathon here, and we are sponsored by AB Spry for the protection of the soldiers and their success and the protection of Klal Yisrael. And for Issa Ben Yuta, we learn sponsored by Shimon Kleinley and Nishmas Hashan Shimon Yuda, Gittabas Shimon Pinchas, by Irving Fishbaum for his own Gesund, Issa Ben Rezer. We also learn for the Gesund of our Chaver Adaf, Yitzchak Mordechai ben Esther Bracha. You should have a continued refuah and gesund. For Meir ben Chayesara, Vigdoraya ben Rivka. And I should mention that tonight is Esther Stern's father's yahrzeit. David Levi ben Yeshaya Zev. He should be a Mel Siyosha for Esther and her brother, and for Gans Klal Yisrael. We are holding now on Daf Nun Ches, again, a very busy night tonight, as we have a triple crown tonight. We did the Mishnah Yomis already, and we are now on our second blot. And after the second blot, we will be learning a chak. Unbelievable. We will be learning the last chak of Mishpatim, day 6, which is a shorter one. And we're going to be learning the 8th parak of Mishnayos Parah. When do you get a chance to learn Mishnayos Parah? I mean, when do you get a chance to learn Mishnayos Parah? It's a holy cow, I'll tell you that much. Now, as we are holding on Daf Nun Ches Amud Aleph, and we are holding 7 lines from the top. Heichi Nofel. We said that Bruce's animal fell into Beresh's field, and we said it's an einus. So why was it an einus? Rav Kahana Amar Shehuchleka b'meimei ragleh. It slipped on its own urine, and that's not something that the owner could anticipate. I mean, Bruce has his eyes out, but that's not something that he could have anticipated, and therefore it's considered an einus. Rav Amar Shedachfasa chaverta, that Bruce's other ox gave it a push and pushed it into the field. So the Gemara says over here, oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh b'dvaro. Covered Melava Malka. I mean, I'm going to eat it, I'm going to wash, but it says Chamin b'Motzei Shabbos melugma. Now, says the Gemara, Mandiyama shedochvasa chaberta. Rav who adds, even if Bruce's other animal gave it a shove, surely, where it slipped on its urine, which is even more something you can't watch out for. But the one who says that it slipped on its urine, but if it was pushed by its partner, pasha. There we say Bruce was negligent, and then then he doesn't just pay for what he benefited, but he paid for what he damaged. Why? Because we tell him if it's walking on the edge of like a cliff, you should have made them walk single file, that they shouldn't push each other. You should have had them cross single file. Amar Rav Kahana, now another variable. You know, in Psak, there's so many angles to analyze. So here's another variable. Amar Rav Kahana, Lo yishanu ela ba'oisa aruga. When we say that Bruce only has to pay Berish for that which he benefits, that's only when the animal ate in the furrow that he started eating when he fell. Aval me'aruga la'aruga, but if he finished eating the furrow and he went to continue to eat into another furrow, I'm sorry, Berish says, Bruce, by then you should have recovered your animal out of the field. Mishalemes Masha Zika, then he has to pay what he damages. Rabbi Yochanan says no. you see, Bruce knows that Berish, has a license for a pistol. He's afraid to come on Bruce's property, Berish's property. He might be trigger happy. And therefore, Rabbi Yochanan, afilu me'aruga la'aruga, even from one furrow to another furrow, va'afilu kol hayom kulay, even if he's there in the courtyard the whole day, he's exempt for paying the damage because he's afraid. By the way, this is what the Miri says. The Miri says Bruce is afraid to trespass on Berish's property. Berish, I don't know if you know, but he has his high-powered rifle, and you don't want to mess with him. Until the animal comes out and goes back in. Well, once it goes back in, now Bruce doesn't have any excuses. Bruce is the excuse man, right? Now Bruce doesn't have any excuse. Rav Papa says, by the way, if it gets back into Berish's property, even if Bruce made a shmira pchusa, a minimal shmira, it's not enough. Bruce would still be chayiv. Rav Papa, don't say until it comes out with Bruce's knowledge and returns with Bruce's knowledge. That means Bruce didn't take precautions. If it came out with his knowledge, even though Bruce made a shmira b'chusa, minimal shmira, Bruce is still chayiv. Why? Because once this animal tasted the yummies in Berish's field, it's going to go back there, and therefore he has to make a shmira ma'ula. My time, the Amalek came in the Alpha, since he learned the goodies that are in Berish's field, kol emes de mishtamta, whenever it could get away, la'asim rat, it's going to run back there. So therefore he has to take extra precautions, and if he doesn't take extra precautions, he's going to be chayiv. Now, don't think we're going to take your excuses just like that, just sitting down, Bruce. And it's getting to be ridiculous. Now, Bruce, I want you to know that on my Facebook page, I get every day for 6 years what was posted on that day. So on Friday, I found from 6 years ago a note from Rachel that she sent out to the community that everybody should light early in memory. It was the Shiva of Mim Libby. So everybody should light early in memory of Mim Libby. And she also said, and when you do it, you should also have in mind my wonderful daughter Kayla Russ. It's a beautiful note. In her beautiful way, she praised my children, and it was a real beautiful note. Her beautiful deeds, Bruce, live after her. Okay. Yorda Kedarka, if the animal went down in its normal way, in other words, it didn't fall, Ve'ezika, Mishalemes Mashe Ezika, because of course, if the animal walked into Berish's property, that's Bir B'Steyacha, that's Shane, and of course, Shane is a Muad Mitchilasa, and it pays the full amount. That's Posh. Now clears the Gemara as follows. What happens if the animal walks into Berish's property? So that's a pshia. But then its water breaks and it damages his property with the water of the Leda. So that's an inus. So is Bruce going to be chayiv then? It's a wild case. Boy, Rabbi Yirmiyah, Yarda Kedarka, it went into Berish's property, but Vizika b'mei Leda, it damaged with its water breaking. Mahu. So the Gemara says, well, obviously, it's a case of Tchilas B'Pshia V'Seifa B'Inus. Because initially, Bruce was Pesher by letting it get into Beresh's field, and there was an Inus, the water breaking. So, Ali ben Aman Yom Tchilas B'Pshia V'Seifa B'Inus Chayiv. If you hold Tchilas B'Pshia, initially it's a negligence, at the end is Inus Chayiv, Leiti B'Eilach. Then of course Bruce has to pay, through the nose. Ki T'B'Eilach Ali ben Aman Yom Tchilas B'Pshia V'Seifa B'Inus Potter. Do we say, I'm reading Kevin the Tchilas B'Pshia V'Seifa B'Inus Potter, therefore Bruce is off the hook? Or maybe Bruce, knowing that his animal was expecting any moment, should have anticipated that this animal could do damage just by its water breaking. It's completely a pshia. The kaven the kachazi the kravel mialet, since he saw that the animal was imminently due to give birth, he should have given it extra protection. Ulas tamura, and be careful with it, and therefore he's chayiv, even according to Man Yom Tchilas B'Pshia V'Seifa B'Inus Potter. Teiku Tishbi Yataretz Kushis V'Bayis. Okay, it's 46 minutes and we're in the third quarter. No, actually the fourth quarter, right? We're in the fourth quarter. As Rich tells me, slow down. My wife won't know why I'm home so early. I know, it's a problem. She'll say, did you really go to the Daf 2 blot? Who are you kidding? Rich, do I have permission to tell them what we were talking about? I just want to tell you something, a praise of Rich Leonard, but also a lesson for all of us. Rich said to me initially that, I usually spend Motzei Shabbos with my wife, which is a very, very praiseworthy thing to do. Motzei Shabbos is a time where a woman is stuck in the home the whole day, and it's a nice time to spend with a wife when you're not wiped out from a work week, you're not a washed out dish towel. So I told Rich, tell her you're going to learn a little bit first, the night is still young, and then you'll give her the rest of the night. And he came. So of course he came because she approved. So it's a credit to her, it's a credit to him, but also it's a good thing for us to know. You tell your wife, our women are full partners in our learning. And the way to become a full partner is to be machshiv the learning and say, I'll wait for you to learn. And that makes a woman in the next world, after 120, she gets a full credit in her husband's learning. So now, the Gemara says, Keitzad mishalemes mashe hezika. We said that if the animal eats, it pays for what it damaged. However, we're a little lenient, and we don't evaluate the item by itself, because then it would be very expensive. But we evaluate it agav a bigger amount. And in other words, this larger amount, how much was it worth when this was included, and how much is it worth now with this missing? So it's less of a amount. So exactly how we make this cheshbon, the Gemara discusses now. Let's see it inside. Keitzad mishalemes mashe ezika. How do we go about ascertaining the damage? So we said that we don't evaluate the item itself, but agav a bigger amount. So the Gemara says, Benani Mili, where do we see that we do this leniency? So Amar Masna, the Amar Kra, the pasuk says, Uvier b'stei acher, and it consumed in another field. And we darshan b'stei acher malamed shishamin al gav stei acher. We evaluate it through a bigger field. How much was this bigger field worth before part of it was damaged, and how much is it worth now? Says the Gemara, but we darshan from Bir B'stei Acher that it's only if it's in the Rosh Hashanah and not in the Rosh Hashanah. Ha'il Bir B'stei Acher mebayle la'fuke Rosh Hashanah. So the Gemara says, you're right. But in kein lichter rachmano via b'stei chaverai. It shouldn't say b'stei acher. It should just say via b'stei chaverai. Inami, stei acher. Why does it say b'stei acher? My b'stei acher. Sheshamin al gav stei acher. That we evaluated using a bigger field. Says Gemara, so maybe that's all that it's coming to teach you, and that you're chayiv even in the Rishus Harabim. Ve'ema kulei lachiyu da'asi. How do we know to exclude if it was shein in the Rishus Harabim? Lafuke Rishus Harabim minolan. How do we know to exclude Rishus Harabim? So the Gemara says, because im kein lichtavei rachmana gabei tashlumin. If it was only to come to tell us how to pay, then it should say meitav sodeyu meitav karmai, the best of the field, the best of the vineyard, yeshalim b'stei acher, through the calculation of a larger plot. Why is it said by the damage? Lamali the kasrach managabe beer, by the consuming, by the damage. Shmami no tarte. It's also coming to tell you that it's only in the Rishus HaNizik and not in the Rishus HaRabim. So now the Gemara gets very technical. Very technical. I mean, you don't want it to be too easy, otherwise people will say, for this, I could have gone out to ice cream earlier. I learned this by myself. So the Gemara says, Heichi Shaiminon. How do we evaluate this? Amar Rabbi Yosi bar Chanina saw b'shishim saw. What we do is we do a double calculation. This is really complicated. Let's say the animal ate a kav. Saw is 6 kav. So first we evaluate the saw, but we don't evaluate the saw by itself. First we say we take this saw in 60 saw and say, how much is the 60 saw worth with this saw and without this saw? And the difference is how much that saw is worth. And then how much is this saw worth with this kav and without this kav? So we do a double calculation. Rabbi Yani Omer, the same thing, but instead of 60 times, we do Rabbi Yani Omer, tarkav b'shishim tarkav. Tarkav is a half a saw, because the saw is 6 kav. Tarkav is trei v'kav, 2 and 1, so that's 3 kav. So that's a half a saw in 60 tarkav, in 60 half saw. So again, it's the same thing. A half a saw in 30 kavim, which is again a ratio of 60 to 1. Chizkiah says no. There's no 2 calculations. There's only 1 calculation. Klach b'shishim klochim. If let's say the animal ate a stalk, then you evaluate it with 60 times as much. So how much is the 60 stalks worth, and how much is it worth now that it's missing 1 stalk? Meisvei. So the Gemara asks on this, as we welcome in Robert Feiner, Meisvei, Ochla kav oy kavayim. If the animal ate a kav or 2 kav, ein oimim tishalim demeim. We don't say you pay the amount. We view it as if it was in a small bed. How much is the small bed worth with those 2 kav, and how much is it worth without it? Now, doesn't that mean that we don't also calculate it with 60? My lab b'fnei atzma says Marloi b'shishim. First, we calculate how much the bed is among 60 beds, how much it's worth with it, how much is worth without it, and then we calculate the second calculation. Tan Rabbanan, ein shamin kav. Now, this is a very cryptic statement. Tan Rabbanan, ein shamin kav. We don't evaluate the kav, how much it's worth by itself, because then Bruce will pay through the nose. Because then we make it very valuable. And we don't evaluate how much it's worth in reference to base kur, which is 30 sa. because then it's going to hardly be with anything. So the Gemara says, "My Kama, what does this mean?" Amra Papa Achi Kama, Ein Shaman Kav b'Shishim Kavim. We don't evaluate the Kav amongst 60 Kavim because one Kav in 60 Kavim will not be worth almost anything. It won't change the price of the 60 Kav if it's missing a Kav by almost anything. And then Mepnei Shemashbiach Mazik, because then we're just giving Bruce almost a free ride. V'loi kur b'shishim kurin, nor do we evaluate a kur amongst 60 kur. 60 kur is bought by only a magnate, and therefore he doesn't mind paying a lot of money. And then that benefits Berish, the Nizik. That hurts Bruce. So Gemara says that would be a good pshat, except it starts with a amount of volume, and then it goes to an amount of area. It shouldn't say the area of a kur. If it's talking about volume, like the beginning, it should say v'loy kur mabayile, a kur. It shouldn't say a base kur. That's an amount of area, not amount of volume. Ela Rav Huna bar Menoich mishmei Rav Acha b'rei Rav Ika hakitani. Ein shaman kav b'fnei atzmai. We don't evaluate a kav on its own because that would be very expensive. Then we're just siding with Berish. V'loy kav b'beis kur. Nor do we evaluate a kav out of an area of a base kur, because that's hardly worth anything. Berish will lose. Ela b'shishim. It's done 60 times. Now the Gemara is going to analyze. Gemara is going to analyze. We said this with Bruce's animal. What about if it's not Bruce's animal? What about it's Bruce himself? If it's Bruce himself, that's the mazik. So the Gemara tells us as follows. And Bruce, next time you should want Marshall to be here, Hahu Gavra. And tonight, Hahu Gavra is Begematria Bruce in Swahili. Hahu Gavra, the cuts Kazba Mechavre. What happened is Bruce cut down Berish's palm tree. So also the Kamid Reish Galusa, Berish is well connected. He drags him to the Reish Galusa. Amalei, so the Reish Galusa says, "Oh, Berish, I know Berish's property. L'didi chazili, I saw it. V'tlosa tilsa b'kina v'kaim." And there was 3 palm trees in a row over there. V'avashava me'ezuzeh, and the row of 3 is worth 100. Zil hovle tlosim v'tilsa. Go, since you damaged one of them, so you have to pay a third of the row, give him 33 and a third. So Bruce, who's usually a pretty edel guy, Bruce doesn't take this sitting. Why am I by a Reish Galusa who judges Persian judgment? I mean, what happened to judging it with 60? I mean, here he's making me pay the actual value, 33 and a third. I mean, Bruce is, he says, I'm just a chiropractor. I'm not Rockefeller, I mean, what do you want from me? Also, the Kami to Rav Nachman. Malay b'shishim. You have to evaluate it. How much is 60 worth with it and without it? So Rava questions Rav Nachman. We said the leniency of shishim where the animal does damage. Here it was Bruce that did the damage. Amalei Ravi im amru b'niskei mamainai. If we're going to give this allowance by where your property does damage, yaimru b'niskei gufay, are you going to give this leniency even where you did damage? Amalei Abaye l'Rava. So Abaye says to Rava, you want to claim that by Adam Amasik, we evaluate it more to its direct value. So Abaya said to Rava, is your proof from the following? Peniske gufay mai daite. What's your mind? The Tanya, hamavkir karma shel chaverais mother, in the event that Bruce is doing a lot of damage over here tonight. So over here, if Bruce damages the vineyard of his friend when it's smother, when it's in its budding stage, we look at the vineyard of how much it was worth before, and how much it's worth now that Bruce did his destroying. It doesn't say that we do it up to a volume of 60. So you see that by Adam Amazik it's different. And therefore Rava said that the Reish Galusa was right in demanding for the one palm tree 33 1/3. So the Gemara is going to say, and I think we're going to stop over here because it goes on to the next daf, the whole discussion. The Gemara is going to say that Abaya claims that by an animal we make the same kind of calculation. So we're going to talk about that in Mirza Hashem tomorrow. Rabbi say, now we did the Mishnah Yomis already. Now we're going to go into a chok, and Rich, can you bring me my green screen? We're going to go into a chok. Remember, we're looking for a sponsor for Shmais for this week, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. Also, we want to remind you, share tomorrow night at 8, like usual. Also, we want to remind you that I already put on YouTube, my YouTube channel, I already put a share from Shmais, from actually given during COVID. So check that out, and remember, if you're new to my YouTube channel, Rabbi Moshe Meir Weiss, remember to subscribe and to hit like. And we are going to, let's see, what was tonight? 57 and 58, correct?
Right, 57, 58.
58, and we're just going to set up now for the chok.